All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pennsylvania Preparedness. Tonight, I have a very special guest, Cold War Prepper. If you'd like to introduce yourself, we're going to get right into it and let Cold War Prepper introduce himself, tell us a little about his channel and about himself. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name's Lee, the Cold War Prepper, and I'm originally from El Paso, Texas. So I got involved in prepping. Please put your hand under your jaw, hold it there in place, because when it drops, I don't want to be sued for any damages. I got involved in prepping when my next door neighbor was the civil defense warden and built a cinder block fallout shelter in his backyard during the Cuban Missile Crisis. I could not get enough information about nuclear fallout and everything else. So I've been prepping well over 60 years. Uh, that's the name of the channel, the Cold War Prepper channel. Okay. Plus, I spent 21 years active duty during the Cold War. So, everything kind of coalesces there into the same thing. So I'm just an old fart who's seen a lot. But anyhow, so what's my channel about? There are a couple of things I try to do on my channel. I try to focus, number one, on Monday nights. I have a class on civics and government. Our homeowners association here in Texas. I'm in the greater Austin metropolitan area, the capital of Texas. And so we had a homeowners association meeting, and our vice president of the homeowners association had this placard that they'd hung on the doors. And she says, has everybody seen this? And what it is they're building a low-income housing development about a half a mile from here. And we said, yeah. And she says, that's going to devalue our property. And I said, don't worry about it. It's not going to do anything. She says, this is an obvious attempt to make Biden look bad. And I said, where were you during civics? The federal government has hardly anything to do with local zoning laws. So this is nothing like that. So I decided people need to understand U.S. government and civics. And so I have a class every Monday night, and we're actually it's taking a long time. We're on chapter 5 of this high school civics book. And so we're doing the civics and U.S. government explanation on Monday nights, 8 Central. Then on Tuesday nights, we have a nonfiction book club. So we take a book, if I can find it, and we go through the book. And so on Tuesday nights right now, we're talking about food storage for preppers. And we spend an hour talking about, we actually do 4 different projects. This is designed for 1 year. But I think we're going to need all this information a lot sooner than that. So instead of doing it over 52 weeks, we're doing it over 13 weeks. And we're going to be on week 4 next week. So that's Monday and Tuesday. The last Thursday of every month, we do a fiction book club. So we just finished book 12 of Angry Americans, Chris Weatherman, of his book series, the Survivalist series. And that was, I forget the name of the book now. But anyhow, we did book 12 of the Survivalist series, Chris Weatherman's book. This month, we're doing book 4 of Franklin Horton's books, No Time for Mourning. This is about a group of MHMR professionals in the Appalachian part of Virginia. All these books, the reason I choose these fiction books is there's so much learning in them. Foraging, how to use different tools and how to use different equipment, signaling and stuff like that. We did the entire Stonemont series from Steve Smith. So there's some great books out there. You need to be reading both fiction and nonfiction. And then in April, we're doing 299 days to preparation for our fiction book club. 3 books I'm going to recommend you get. You're going to probably want to take notes. If you take a look at what's happening in the U.S. right now, get this book. This is written by 2 colonels in the People's Liberation Army Navy of China. And it talks about how they're going to infiltrate the U.S. with terrorists. And there's going to be all kinds of events taking place in the United States that logically we can't connect the dots, but it will eventually tear down our infrastructure. Things like unexplained trucks going over bridges, boats getting stuck sideways in canals, wildfires in West Texas. I mean, all these things. If it weren't for this book, I would say, they're just a whole bunch of coincidences that a stockyard blew up and killed 10,000 cattle, or that we have chickens dying at an abnormal rate. if you read that book, they tell you what they're doing. Okay. Then get this book and memorize it. Okay. This is going to be one of the most important books I think you're going to have in your library. And so I have the original one from 1978. It's gray, it's tabbed, highlighted, and everything else. This is the one we used in our nonfiction book club. We finished it just before Christmas. And, but, so yeah, there's some great books out there I strongly recommend you read. Let me just give you a little bit of philosophy. Okay. I think one of the greatest philosophers of our time was Will Rogers. And Will Rogers says, it's not what you know that gets you in trouble. It's what you think you know that just isn't so. And so a lot of us have ideas, what we think is right, and it may not be. So get the knowledge. Talk to people who have been there, done that. I would much rather read something from Selko Begovic, who was the guy from Bosnia who wrote about his year in hell. And I would much rather read his stuff, or Furfal Aguirre's books and his experience during the economic collapse and revolution in Argentina. Those people who have been there, done that, they're going to give you great information on what you need to do to prepare and be prepared. So another piece of philosophy is from a great philosopher by the name of Paul Simon. The year I graduated from high school in 1970, he and his buddy Art Garfunkel wrote an award-winning song in 1970 called The Boxer. And it says, I am just a poor boy, though my story is seldom told. I have squandered my resistance for a pocket full of mumbles. Such are promises, all lies and jest. And here's the important part. Still, a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. So make sure when you listen to somebody, you're listening with open ears. Don't have preconceived notions, because sometimes you're going to be given some information that's going to be quite important to you. And if you automatically reject it, then you have problems. So just some of those basic philosophical things that kind of keep me going. Another one is the Johari window. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but you can draw a window pane of 4 pieces of glass. Up on top, you say, I know. And then on the upper right-hand side, you say, I don't know. And then on the left side, you say, you know. And then on the bottom side, left side, you say, you don't know. Okay, so there's some things both of us know about me. We both know I'm Lee, the Cold War prepper. There are some things about me you don't know. Okay. There are some things about me you know that I don't know. I don't know how I'm coming across to you. Okay. I need your feedback in order to get that. Then there are some things that neither one of us knows. If all of a sudden something traumatic happened at the back door here, how will I react? We don't know. Not until it happens. So, that was that famous line during the Bush administration, the unknown unknowns. And that's what he was talking about. So we have to constantly be diminishing that unknown by putting ourselves in positions where we're testing ourselves. We've got to keep trying. We've got to keep practicing. We've got to keep asking those delicate and essential questions so that we can say, hey, what am I going to do next? So I guess that's enough pontificating. Well, that's what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I guess.
No, that was great. I think that was the best intro I've had somebody have so far. That was very good. Right off the bat, you already gave us some stuff to start looking towards. I'm probably going to check out those books as soon as we get off the live, because I'm always looking for new books to check out, but that's awesome. All right. So we already went over a little bit here. You told us about yourself and the channel, which is great. Thank you very much for filling us in. What would you say that some of your strengths are, or something that you're trying to improve upon in your prepping basis?
Can you believe I spent 21 years in signals intelligence and I don't have a ham license?
Wow.
So my goal is it was actually by the end of February, but now it's been shifted to the end of March, because I currently have a disease that was made famous in 2019, 2020, and I'm kind of stuck and can't go out in public. And I'm taking this medicine, Paxlovid, that is the absolutely worst tasting medicine on the face of the earth. And it's horse pills. Honestly, it's terrible. But anyhow, so I've shifted that. I'll go to the test the end of March. And so I'm really good at signals intelligence. I'm really good at, I constantly am looking for new recipes. How can I live and have tasty food in a post-apocalyptic world? One thing that I talk an awful lot about, that I think people overlook. And that's because I had a disaster response company, and I responded to hurricanes Rita, Wilma, and then I almost got deployed to Superstorm Sandy. But one of the things we found was that people don't know how to dispose of human waste. And without disposing of human waste properly, that's going to cause an awful lot of disease, dysentery, typhoid, different things like that can cause another pandemic. And so we have to be extremely cautious on how we handle our waste. That's the solid waste being things that you're throwing away, right? How are we going to get rid of those in the backyard or whatever? Human waste, how are we going to get rid of that? And then, of course, human corpses, how will we get rid of those? So we've got to address all three of those issues because they're inevitable. I mean, we're not going to stop any one of those three from happening, but I don't think people put enough attention into avoiding the consequences of not having a plan on how to handle those. So, that's where stuff like this is going to come in extremely important. You've got to make sure you have your antibiotics just in case you do something. My daughter was the first confirmed case of cryptosporidiosis when we had a lightning strike hit our septic system. A pump. It took our sewage and pumped it up a hill, and then down, gravity fed it down into Austin. And when lightning hit that pump, it backed up, and then we had our wellhead for our drinking water was 150 yards upstream. But there was a karst that took that raw sewage directly down to the wellhead. And so we had, you can read about the Brushy Creek Cryptosporidium outbreak in 1997. And my daughter was the first confirmed case of that. So I know this stuff can kill. If we hadn't had her hospitalized, she would not be with us now. So, I think food, medical, first aid, triage. If you have a CERT organization where you are, and that's CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, absolute best first aid training I have ever had. They brought dummies in. We had to pack wounds. I mean, just great training, and it's free from your county or city or whatever. So make sure you get that. I wasn't combat arms in the military. I was intelligence, so I don't consider myself any kind of a maneuver and shoot kind of guy. There are people who are far, far better than that. I'm 72, so I'm too old for it anyway. I would just be target practice for them, Let me see, what else? I guess that pretty much wraps it up. Food storage, cooking, sewage disposal, and medical first aid.
That's very interesting. I think you're one of the first people that's ever brought up the topic of waste removal as far as the solid waste. I think most of the time people are thinking about like making sure that people don't smell the food that they're cooking, or maybe their trash. But as far as the waste that they expel and or corpses, I think that those are two that you wouldn't really think about till the time came.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What would you say, what are you most proud of as far as your personal life achievements and or your prepping achievements?
Oh gosh. Okay. Personal life achievements, I guess my wife. How in the world I ended up with a woman like Helen, I have no idea. I lucked out. And the funny thing is, it was my first wife's best friend who introduced me to Helen. So she said, "You just married the wrong girl. That you needed somebody far smarter and somebody who could challenge you and as sarcastic as you are and everything else, so the two of you could get along." And we've been married over 40 years now, so that has worked out extremely well. Children, grandchildren. Well, when we were in the pre-show, my 5-year-old grandson called me wanting to play chess on FaceTime. So, and we're going to do that as soon as this is over. Then prepping accomplishments. I think not being ashamed of the fact that I have made some really bad mistakes, and learn from them. And I'm willing to share those. Look, we're all in this together, so we can come out the other side together. So if I hoard information or lead you on the wrong way, that's akin to murder. I want to save your life, not kill you. And so, if I can tell you I've made some stupid mistakes and don't do this, I learned from hard experience. I'll give you a good one. I'm going to use this little diagram right here. Okay. In prepping, I have a rule, and the rule is that when you're getting something, you can get it inexpensive and convenient. You can get something that's good, and you can get something that's you can get something quickly. Okay, but the rule is you can only have 2 out of the 3 at any one time. So if you want it good and fast, it's not going to be inexpensive. You're going to pay for it. If you want it inexpensive and good, you're going to have to do a lot of preparation, looking for bargains. That's going to take an awful lot of time. Okay, if you want it cheap and fast, it's not going to be good. Okay, so that's the rule. And so what I did was I started my bug out bag in 1971. It was on a Boy Scout Alice pack, and it was a Yucca pack on an aluminum frame. I upgraded that to a medium Alice pack, and then I kept on going back and forth and on what was it that I wanted in my bag. And I finally ended up with what I consider to be a good bag. So from 1971 to 1985, to 2015. So that's what, 40 years I put into that bag. And it was stolen out of the back of my car. And so the biggest mistake I've made is not having an inventory of everything that was in that bag. I am quite certain I lost thousands of dollars on the insurance claim because I was unable to quantify exactly the model, make, and purchase cost of everything that I had put into that bag, what was currently in it when it was stolen. So please, if you're going to have a bug out bag, keep a running inventory of what you have in it, what your purchase price was, replacement price, brand name, everything else. Keep an accurate record, especially if you keep it in your car or somewhere where it's available to be stolen. And so using that thought process, I felt naked. I was driving 60 miles around, each way to a job at that time, and I felt naked. So I bought a Echo Sigma get home bag. Bug out bag. And I'm very happy with it. I've replaced very little of it. After all this time replacing and upgrading that other one, I haven't really done that much exchanging out. It's a good bag. So I'm very happy with it. So do what you think is right for you. Don't listen to other people who have all these things about don't buy something pre-made because it's not going to suit your needs. I had something I made for myself and constantly changed it over 40 years. It just happens.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's good to definitely cater your bug out bag to your specific needs. That's perfect.
There's one of my guys. Hello, KP Heathen. Welcome.
Yeah, I think he already dropped his greetings from Louisiana up top or something.
Yeah.
I think there it is. I found it. All right. I know we got a few other people that stopped in so far. We got Southern Tier Prepper stopped in live, Bug Out Adventures, F Pier, the Royal Report channel, Royal 2IC. Trying to see who else I might have missed.
Loretta Houch.
Oh. All right. What I know I've already asked what you're prepping for, but what would you consider your worst case scenario as far as what you would prep for, that the worst possible case scenario would be?
We are in a target rich environment right now. I mean, it used to be you could kind of pick one thing at a time. Was it Y2K? Was it, a financial meltdown? What was it? You can't pick one right now. I wrote down a list of the things that are just going poo-poo. I mean, we've got possibility of World War III. The French, Germans, Polish, and the British are all getting involved in Ukraine. That's, Putin addressed the Duma day before yesterday and told them that we are on the brink of thermonuclear war. So World War III is becoming inevitable. And I think that the time is running out on what we have to prepare for that. So are we going to get nuked or EMP'd? Don't know. Either one is devastating. We need to make sure that we're prepared for that. Anyhow, even without here in Texas, we've had 2 grid downs over the course of the last 3 years. And so, what can you do and that's going to help you prepare for EMP and nuke if you get the right protection on your systems. But, grid down, let's just call it that. The election, I don't care who wins in November. There's going to be animosity and civil strife because the other side is going to refuse to accept the election. That's how contentious our society is today.
Yeah.
There won't be an acceptance of the elections being fair, open, and the wish of the people, and there's going to be automatic contention. So I see civil strife. I see racial strife right now in our country to an extent I have not seen since high school in the 1960s.
Wow.
That's just totally unbelievable. Then we got poll reversal going on, and that's another issue. Then we've got terrorism and pandemic. Now, with the open borders, we have more cases of tuberculosis. We've had a couple cases of measles come across the border. We're seeing diseases across the border that we have not seen in 100 years, and in proportions that we may not be able to handle. And then we're shipping these people all over the states and just spreading the disease. It's unbelievable. China, like I said, read that book and all the stuff. They've got 80,000 military age, unaccompanied, well-fit men who are dropped off in buses at the San Diego border crossing. We've got 80,000 Chinese. Do you realize that that's 8 divisions of Chinese inside our country right now? And then Lieutenant Blaine Holt, General Blaine Holt, who lives up in Idaho, wrote an article that he has seen the Chinese training with weapons on gun ranges in Idaho. So, I mean, it's happening, people. It really is. So the chance that we have a red dawn with the people already here is highly probable. Let me see. I got to cheat. I have 72-year-old eyes. The economy is in shambles. If you don't have cash on hand in your home, get some good barter items. Get some. I am thoroughly convinced in precious metals. Make sure you have some of that. And then, here's something. I don't know if you all have looked at it this way or not, but West Texas is burning. Largest fire in our history. Same thing in Calgary. I'm sorry, not Calgary, but in Australia. We're losing cattle ranching land like you would not believe. We had a drought in that area. So what does this mean when you have this large an area of fire consuming the food that beef eat? So what do you think is going to happen? And not to mention the fact that the fire is burning the cattle herds. So what do you think is going to happen to the price of meat and the availability of meat in the next 6 months to a year? It's going to be catastrophic. Our food supply is being destroyed by this wildfire in Texas and Oklahoma. And you've got to be aware of that. You got to make plans for that now. Stay constantly aware of things that are in the news and say, okay, what if? So how does that affect me? Why should I be concerned about a wildfire in West Texas? Can it really hurt me? Yes, it can. So, target-rich environment. Pick your scenario.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally get that. Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. There's so many things that could go wrong, especially in the machine that is America. That's definitely very possible. All right. What would you say that your favorite part of prepping and preparedness is as a whole? Like, for instance, I enjoy the pre-planning idea of things, and I like the fact that you have to go test stuff out. So I love going into the woods and doing stuff like that, or going hiking, testing out a bug out bag. Like, for me, that part's fun. What would you say your favorite part of preparedness is?
I would say up until the time I turned 50, I agree with you. But, now I don't do the physical stuff like I used to. Probably my biggest rewards, those 2 Snowmageddons, Ice-mageddons we had here in Central Texas. The fact that I was prepared and was capable of taking care of people with medical needs, with food needs, with heat needs, with, just keeping people alive and just being of value to somebody else, and knowing that I have done something to take care of another of God's creatures. That's what really, I think that's got to be my single greatest accomplishment in prepping, is being able to just help somebody else. And, and the funny thing is, only one family out of about a dozen bothered to come back afterwards and say thank you.
Wow, that's a shame. But that's an awesome story of you being able to help other people. I know that's why most of us are in it, is either to protect our loved ones and or the rest of our family. So definitely understandable. Oh, let's see. what's one of the things that you have to do, but you ended up enjoying it? Not necessarily your favorite part of preparedness, but something that you have to do for preparedness and you ended up liking it after you started doing it.
Oh gosh. I guess the dirty nasty. Um, you know, thinking about once I was exposed to the fecal overrun in New Orleans in the dome, then I mean, and the ensuing disease, and you say, God, why didn't anybody think about this? And so, that's one of those things you purposely, psychologically, mentally just avoid thinking about. It's one of those things you just kind of hope, well, it's going to take care of itself. It's not. And so, now that I have done that, I'm kind of the poo-poo guy on YouTube, as far as, you got to make sure you have a plan on how you're going to dispose of this stuff so it doesn't infect you or the others. And then I keep urging my neighbors, I can get it all contained here in my yard. Okay. I've got 4, porta potties. I've got it taken care of. My next door neighbor doesn't. Okay. And so when that stuff gets to a certain saturation point, it starts seeping and it'll seep over into my yard. I don't want that to happen. So how can I go out and spread the word that you have to think about poo-poo too? Okay. Because you not thinking about poo-poo can kill me.
Right.
Not only kill you, but it can kill me. So yeah, I got really excited. I get excited talking about it. Now get this book.
You mean Oh,
Humanure Handbook.
I'm gonna have to write that one down. Huh. That's very interesting. That I would have to say that it's definitely not something I would have thought. You would have enjoyed. Let me see. XNYC Prepper goes poo poo man.
Yep.
Well, I mean, hey, that's really good that that's something that you more or less take pride in and enjoy getting ready for, because that's something that me personally, I've been in basements on fire calls that have been flooded with the stuff. And I remember we were wet vacuuming it out and something got sucked up into a hose and it splattered on me. And I was not as happy as you would be describing your plans for that. But I was definitely, I came out of the basement covered and I just grabbed a giant container of hand sanitizer and started dumping it on myself. So
before the wall came down, I was stationed in Augsburg, Germany. And so Helen and I went skiing on the Rossfeld, which is right there by Berchtesgaden, which is, the Hitler's nest and everything else. And so we were coming down, and it was in April. And so the snow was melting. And what people don't realize is in Europe, they use humanure as a fertilizer. So they will compost it and they'll put it on their farm fields and everything else before the first snowfalls come. Well, guess what happens when it starts to melt? That's when it starts dissolving that and carrying it down into the earth. So we come down off this 5-kilometer long run, which is about 3 miles, and we get down to the bottom, and I thought it was ice, and I got prepared for ice. It wasn't ice. It was melted water. And so I had my skis going as they were going to go for ice, and I did a flip head first into this mass of humanure. And so, yeah, same experience. I threw that ski suit away. Didn't even try to salvage it. Probably a $200 ski suit at the time, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. That's the one thing I don't like dealing with as much, but unfortunately, that's something that you have to think about. That's a very good point. Let's see. What would you say that your least favorite part of prepping and preparedness would be?
The notion that I'm going to have to turn people away. I've been trying to build trust and camaraderie in the neighborhood. And, I've got some friends that'll be coming over because I've got to sleep sometime. That's, that the lone wolf doesn't work. You got to sleep sometime. And so I've got some people I trust who are going to come over. They can guard while I'm sleeping and I'll guard while they're sleeping, et cetera, et cetera. But my neighbors who I've been asking for 3 years to join me and haven't, they're going to be wanting stuff from me. They know I have stuff because I've been asking them to join me for 3 years. And I'm going to have to turn them away and say, no, you had your opportunity,
Right.
And I think that's the part that I'm going to like least about prepping is not being able to help people as much as I would like to.
Right. Well, I mean, from our talk earlier and from the talk we've had so far, it sounds like you've given them as many opportunities as you possibly can. So, that should hopefully soften the blow a little bit when and if the time comes for that.
If you're a parent and you have a starving kid, you will do anything for that kid.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I understand they will be emotional. They'll be desperate. It won't be a friendly basis. That's for sure. And there may be violence, that you just have to, I think, ultimately prepare yourself for that.
Right.
So Bug Out Adventures wants to know, what do I think about burning the waste? I don't. I mean, if you do, make sure you do it far away from where you are. So in the Army, there's a term called shit detail. Okay. And so I'm sorry for the vernacular. But if you did something that didn't quite warrant an Article 15, which is non-judicial punishment, so reduction in rank, forfeiture of pay, confinement to barracks, all that kinds of stuff, then the first sergeant would put you on poo-poo detail. Okay. So what we had these gantries, and on the gantry, you had toilet seats. And then down underneath, you had 55-gallon drums. And you would go into the 55-gallon drums. Of course, when you're up on top of the gantries, you're a perfect VC target as well. So the biggest fear is getting shot while you're up on the gantry and fall into that bucket.
Sure.
So if you were one of the guys who messed up, you would be given the detail to take that 55-gallon drum, pour it into a slit trench, pour diesel on it, and light it on fire. And so what we found was, especially after Iraq and Afghanistan, it was very common because it's too difficult to dig in some places. But it's very common. People have a lot of lung disease as a result of the fumes from burning fecal matter with diesel, especially. So, yeah, it's not something you want to do. If you want to do it far away from where you are. Make sure that where you're doing it is downwind from where you typically are, and then wear a respirator, please. And it helps an awful lot if it's dry before you try to burn it. If you try to burn it so when I talk about separating my buckets, I have one for liquids and one for solids. And so that way it will help, because you can dispose of the liquid waste a lot easier than you can the solid. But if you put the solid and the liquid together, then trying to dry that out so you can burn it becomes even more complicated. So yeah, separate the two and then burn the solids, but a distance from where you are downwind.
See, and this is why it's such a great example to have people that have unique perspectives, because I would not have even thought about trying to make sure it's dry or anything like that. This is great information, honestly. This is fantastic. I'm glad that Bug Out Adventures asked it too. Let me see. XNYC Prepper said, burn poo-poo inferno. I think he's liking the idea of burning it too.
Yeah.
I know. Southern Tier Prepper said, who would have thought, or how bizarre is it that we're actually seeing SHTF in our lifetime? Blows my mind. Yeah, fortunately, it's one of those things that you prepare for, and when it starts happening, you're ready for it, hopefully. Oh, let's see what else we have. All right, this is one that I asked last time, and I like this question a lot, just because it's interesting. It gives you an idea of somebody's what they're thinking about. So, if there was a prepper genie, and you had 3 prepping related wishes, what would your 3 wishes be?
There is a Girl Scout camp for sale down in the hill country here in Texas for $5 million. It has 31 cabins on it. It was a Girl Scout summer camp. It's on the river. There's fishing. Their specialty there was training in archery. I would like to buy that land. I would like to put some underground bunkers in it for, nuclear fallout protection. Then I would like to have a reinforced area up top where people could just come in and gather. When I look at, and it seems highly plausible, when I look at the books that I really like, in American Survival Series, Steve Smith's Snowmont series, what's his name? Fortner? Gosh, I forget his name. But anyhow, I've got his book right here. I've got it. Franklin Horton. I was trying to get F and H together. Franklin Horton in his series. That all these people coalesced together. They weren't, parts of them were an integral family unit as a core, but then all the rest coalesced around it. And so I think that's probably what it's going to be. So having that group of interesting people with unique skills coalesce around me, I think would be fantastic. And see if we can't build an extended family that way. So number one, the land, number two, the facilities, and number three, the people.
Okay, interesting. I like that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it would be nice to be able to buy a large piece of property like that. I feel like that's most preppers' wish list, is that they could find a piece of property that's out in the mountains or somewhere that they are away from people and already has some sort of infrastructure on it. So I could see where that would be your first, second, and third wish. That's pretty good. Okay. What is your favorite and least favorite prepping related food?
My favorite prepping related food. I've been a distributor with Thrive Life since 2009. So I'm sold on Thrive Life. We use it. So that's what, 15 years I've been a distributor with them and eating their products. Of course, now when I went to Philmont Scout Ranch back in the 60s, a Mountain House was brand new. And so we got to do Mountain House as we were climbing through Philmont. And I thought it was pretty good, to be honest with you. The old meal ready to eat combat individual C ration that we had up until around 1980, 82, I guess, was okay. It was canned goods. Then it was replaced by the MRE. And I think now we have like MRE3, which is vastly superior to what we had MRE1. But that's just been fantastic having that stuff available. Campbell's canned chili mac. I mean, when you can get a meal of chili mac in a can that tastes decent and it's pre-cooked, all you got to do is warm it up. You don't even have to really warm it up. You can throw it in your bug out bag, and you got a decent meal that tastes pretty good. I really like Survival Warehouse, but man, they're expensive. I would like to get, some of their steaks and hamburger patties and stuff like that, but just can't afford it. I'm a retired soldier. I don't make that much. My least favorite. Crackers. Canned crackers.
Okay. Just the flavor or the texture?
They just bring back bad memories.
Okay. That's fair enough. All right. What would you say that you think the most interesting or fascinating thing that you've learned through the whole prepping process would be, as far as whether it's learning about the human body, or maybe learning something was flammable that you never realized, or something that could be used as an alternative fuel source or something like that? What would you say the most interesting thing you've learned is so far?
I'm going to revert back to the other one because I dislike it so much that I even forgot that it was a food, and that's oatmeal.
Oh.
When I eat oatmeal, I feel like I'm swallowing my own snot, and it just, oh, gosh, it gets me. So and the other thing is Pepsi Cola. We could only get Pepsi, and we were under attack, and so we went to blackout conditions. Billy was sat next to me. He was the other analyst right next to me, and he chewed tobacco, and he had a spit can. And so under dark out conditions, I grabbed what I thought was my Pepsi can, and it wasn't. It was his. And to this day, you get a Pepsi can within 3 to 6 inches from my mouth, I start gagging and everything else. And that's just another one of those psychological traumas that I guess I'll have to live through one of these days. If it's the only soda pop left on the face of the earth, I probably won't drink it. I can't get past that. Okay, now what was your question again?
Oh, it was, what's the most interesting or fascinating thing that you've learned in your journey of prepping, as far as something that you found out, like, for instance, if something can be used as an alternative fuel source or something like that?
I think the most fascinating thing I found is the number of things that people think they know about nuclear warfare, and that they think that it's inevitable. Everybody's going to die. We're going to be a nuclear wasteland. It's going to be Mad Max and everything else. That there's so much disinformation out there, and especially from bad movies or good movies in the sense they made a lot of money, but just bad information. I've had two responses to videos that I've done on surviving a nuclear war. And one of them is a guy who claims that his uncle is the only survivor of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, who says that water is converted into the 4 heavy metals during the nuclear reaction. And I mean, he really got it. I said, listen, guy, we're not talking valence chemistry. We're talking nuclear physics. They're two totally different things. We're talking about electrons, not valence chemistry. But, so just terrible. The other one was a guy who said, hey, Lee, if you had fallout in New York City, all the steam comes from a central steam generating plant. And so that water has been irradiated. Okay. Does that mean that all the water in the heating system throughout the city of New York becomes irradiated? And I said, you don't change water unless it's actually in the actual nuclear reaction. It becomes deuterium. But if it's just, if there's an explosion, it's an air burst. No, the water does not become irradiated. However, there may be some irradiated dust particles that fall into it, and you can filter those out. So in here, I think it's chapter 6, if I remember right. No, chapter 8. So in here, it says you can filter out with a coffee filter 98% of the radioactive dust.
Wow.
Okay. So, I mean, and then he wrote a 20-minute one on how stupid I was, that obviously that irradiated water was going to kill everybody in New York City. It disturbs me, going back to what Will Rogers said, it's not what you know that gets you in trouble. It's what you think you know that just isn't so.
Right. Yeah, I know. Excuse me. I've had some people that it seems though they have that exact mindset of they know all and you can't prove them wrong. However, I know I've seen some people talking on topics of medical procedures or something like that, and me being just an EMT, knowing that what they're saying is not exactly factual. So I understand what you mean as far as people get into that mindset of they know all and you can't prove them wrong, or they hear something and they believe it in it wholeheartedly.
So another one of those things I like to talk about when I'm talking with preppers is what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Dunning-Kruger, Kruger. And what this says is that people who don't know that much about a topic have a tendency to think that they're experts in it. And the more you know about a topic, the more you realize you need to study that topic because you're just barely getting into it. So we have a tendency to overvalue our ignorance and undervalue our knowledge.
That's interesting. I like that. That sums up a lot of misconceptions out there. I like that a lot. I'm gonna have to definitely check. You gave me a lot of stuff I'm gonna be doing homework on after the fact. This is great. I'm big into learning new things, so this is gonna give me a whole weekend's worth of stuff to check out. Let's see. If you could give out one message to not just the prepping community, but everybody at once, let's just say that somebody chose your video to go up in Times Square on happenstance, and you knew that that was the video that they were going to choose, what would that message be that you could get out to as many people as possible?
God made man in his own image. We're all brothers of the same human race. We need to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other. We've got to quit fighting with each other. We've got to quit backbiting each other. We've got to help each other through the hard parts and celebrate the wins. and we can't be jealous. If you take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he talks about self-actualization, going up from the bottom up to the top, self-actualization. And then Stephen Covey talks about it being a ladder put up against the wall. So the way Lee modifies those two is we've all got our ladders, and we're building these rungs, and building those rungs on those ladders and getting up high to a higher state is difficult, and it takes work, and it takes concentration, and it takes a little bit of understanding other people as well, because you can't do it alone. So we're building these rungs, and all of a sudden somebody younger is learning from everything we've done, and it's easier for them to climb up on the rungs we've already built. So now they're getting ready, they're speeding up, they're catching up with us, about ready to build a rung above us. And what do? We stab them in the back, because we don't want them to take our position on the top. No, let them take the position on the top for a while. Let them do the hard work and everything else while I take a rest. Then when they start wearing out, I'm rested. I can take over again. Okay. But we can do that collaboratively. We don't have to do it competitively. We don't have to do it by stabbing each other in the back. Right. So we're all God's children. That's what I would say. That's what we need to share.
I like that. That's a very good message. Let's see. And I saw a couple more people pop in here. Got Holly Ivins.
One of my fantastic followers, and so is Who's Your Prepping Nurse. Great one.
And CJ 1975. XMYC OG Prepper. He popped in here. All right. Let's see what else we got in here. I just had the list up. I keep losing it. There we go. All right. What are some of the goals for your channel and yourself as a whole in the prepping community? What would you say that your goal for your channel, first of all, is, and then as far as what you plan on doing, or what is your end goal for your preps?
My end goal for the preps is to survive whatever is happening, and to do it in a non-confrontational way. Goal for the channel. Of course, I think everybody would like to grow. I think, I believe I have an important message, but then I feel like I'm being arrogant by saying that. I have a phenomenal group of followers, and I would love to have you, and I would love to have a lot of my followers where I could interview them and ask these types of questions to them. I mean, when you look at the chat on my lives, I have the best group of people on the face of the earth. They're asking each other questions, and they're supporting each other. They're giving ideas. They're teaching me stuff. I mean, I've got people who have only been doing this for 2 or 3 years who are teaching me. I've been doing it over 60, teaching me new stuff on a regular basis. I just took a note yesterday. Somebody said, "Hey, Lee, you can do that if instead of doing what you're doing, just plant some rosemary." Like, wow, never thought of that. Thank you. That's a great idea. So I've got a community of just phenomenal people that I really enjoy, and really enjoy learning from them. And I'd like to have them on and interview them.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been in a couple of your lives, and I'll tell you what, every single time I learn something new, and it's always thought-provoking every single time I'm in there. So it's definitely, anybody that's in here from my channel that has not subscribed to Cold War Prepper, make sure that you head over there and go ahead and do that. Also, make sure that you like this video before you all leave, if anybody's leaving soon. But I think we're sticking around for another 12 or so minutes.
And if you would, when it's over, come back and leave a comment on the replay. And then if you would be kind enough to just share it. Let's grow Pennsylvania Preparedness's channel. And I'll be taking a copy of this link, and I'll be putting it on my channel and recommending that all of my people follow it as well.
Appreciate that greatly. Thank you. Does anybody in the chat have any questions for myself or the Cold War Preppers so far? I know I see a couple people talking to each other, and I know Bug Out Adventures asked that good question earlier. Let's see. Just going through the chat here, making sure I didn't miss anything. I see a couple people talking about Let me see. It was CJ 1975, I believe, and Who's Your Prepping Nurse were talking about we're starting a recipe book. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, put it in all caps, especially just because there is a couple people in here. I don't want to miss anybody.
Thank you, XNYC OG Prepper. I appreciate that. And I usually respond, so let me write that down.
I saw FSP stopped in. Farmer Son Prepping. How's it going?
Hello, Farmer Son Prepping. I haven't seen you in, gosh, over a year.
I don't know if you noticed, but he did start another channel. I think it's, want to make sure I get the name right. Southern Stacking. And I know it's definitely Southern Stacking something.
Yeah, Phreoxerus, another Texan. He's great. He always has really good, interesting questions and discussions on my channel.
Let's see. Widow's Diary artist and poet stopped in here. There we go.
What is the one book I think every prepper should have in their library? Oh, gosh. I think they should have one room of books. So, and this is a difficult one because now we have to start asking ourselves, what do you think that the number one threat is that you're going to be preparing for? And are you going to be bugging out or are you going to be hunkering down? And so for bugging out, the SAS Survival Guide is great. The old 1940 Boy Scout kind of a brownish field handbook is one of the best prepper books you'll ever find if you plan on bugging out and you plan on going into nature. For hunker down, golly, nuclear war survival skills. Like I said, that's a book you got to memorize. I think this one that we're doing right now in our Tuesday night book club is phenomenal. Where did I put it? It's over here. This one, it's got 52 great things you can do, how to make sourdough starter for your sourdough bread, how to cook, a lot of different things. I think this is an outstanding book. I would recommend it. It's difficult because I don't know what your goals are. I don't know whether you're going to be hunkering down or bugging out or what you think your threat is. And, I think different things have different priorities. So definitely Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy's books on medical first aid are essential, and pandemic and germs and stuff like that. Those are essential as well.
I saw F. Peter threw up a comment asking if you could show the books again, and in the chat for anybody that stops in later.
So this is the one that we're talking about on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock on my channel. So we'll be doing week 4 of 13 this coming Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Central. And the author's name is David Nash. Okay. The fiction book club, which we do the last Thursday of each month. So we just did one day before yesterday, and that was volume 12 of A Americans, the Survivalist series. We've been doing his over a year now. This coming end of March, we'll be doing Franklin Horton's No Time for Mourning, which is book 4 in his Borrowed World series. He's got 3 great series. He's got the Locker 9 series. Basically, his daughter is away at the University of Georgia, I believe, and an EMP hits. He has given her an address and a key. She goes to this locker. There's a Jeep, all the prepper equipment that she needs, and she and her friends start their journey to go back home. Then in volume 2 of that series, they run into Mad Mick, and Mad Mick starts a new series. And so, I've got 3 series going on all at the same time. This one's totally different from the other 2. He says this one is his theoretical on when he went to his business meetings in Roanoke, what if an EMP happened, what would happen as he was on his way home, and how would he survive that? So this is more his explanation of what he thinks would happen to him in a realistic survival mode. Steve Smith, the Stonemont series, 6 books, fantastic series. You learn a lot about communications in those. Golly. Politically, right now, the opportunity for us to have a Red Dawn event here in the United States, you've got to read this one, Unrestricted Warfare by the 2 Chinese colonels from the People's Liberation Army Navy of China. And they are telling us exactly what they're doing as far as all kinds of things that we won't be able to tie the points together. It won't be obvious to us, but they're still going to destroy our overall infrastructure. Dave Canterbury's books are phenomenal. As a matter of fact, I was just talking, I was last night on Prepping with Sarge. I'm a moderator on his channel. And his question, the question was, we were getting ready to go to whatever that survival thing is where you only get to take 10 items. And the question was, would you take a slingshot or a bow? And I said, well, David Canterbury has a slingshot with a bushing that's attached in the slingshot where you can actually fire an arrow through that bushing. So it becomes a combination crossbow slingshot.
It looks like XMYC Prepper asked a question. He says, our two-party politicians are doing a great job at, I'm guessing he means controlling. Do you think we're being set up by all of them? Will there be an election or Red Dawn?
There will be an election, but nobody will accept the results of the election. So I think that there will be civil strife the day after the election. And I would stay away from any large metropolitan gathering areas, downtown Philadelphia, downtown, Manhattan, downtown Austin. Stay away from them. Yeah, sling bow, I think is what he calls it. Thank you, Farmer Son.
I'll tell you, I live in Pennsylvania, and I try to avoid Philadelphia at all costs, unless it's for a cheesesteak.
Oh, Love and Life. Thank you. God, the father of all of those books, William Forstchen. Absolutely. He is the father of post-apocalyptic, semi-realistic EMP survivalism. And what a phenomenal series of books. There's 3 of them, 1 second after, 1 day after, and 1 year after. Must reads, absolute must reads. He is one of the few authors I have not yet interviewed on my channel.
Well, it looks like we're wrapping up here around the hour-long mark. Is there anything that you want to say before we wrap it up for the end, or just put it out there?
Let me check. Just 1 second. I think I pretty much covered it. Yeah. Golly. It's been a great night. So one thing, don't do it to me, but one thing that Prepping with Sarge does with his guests at the end of all his, he says, okay, now let's do an EDC pocket dump. So he wants to know what people have for EDC in their pockets.
Yeah. I know. I think it was one of the first interviews I was on. Somebody did that. I had my firearm, and I went to grab it, and I was like, oh wait, I don't think I can do that on YouTube. So I just
no, you can't.
Got the thing on me, and they're like, oh wait. I was like, oh no, don't worry, I wasn't gonna bring it up. And they were like, oh, okay. So I was like, I guess that's a real big no on there. So that's all.
They don't want you to, especially during a live. They don't want you to show anything bladed or firearm related.
Yeah. I just thought that was funny because somebody did that to me my first interview, and I was like, oh wait, I can't do that. So, you said not to do it to you because I know earlier I was thinking about what I was gonna wear because I just ran out in the cold and got a shower right before this. I think I'm gonna do this interview in a hoodie and like sweatpants because it's cold down here in the basement. I was like, hopefully that doesn't get brought up because I won't have much on me. But
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Unless anybody has any last minute questions, we'll stay on here for a hot minute. If anybody has any questions, put it in bold so I don't miss it. And make sure that you head over to Cold War Prepper, subscribe to his channel, like this video, share it out, and appreciate everybody for coming in, bringing all the good questions, and joining us tonight. So if anybody has any questions, throw them in there. We're going to hang out for a hot minute. I know it was a pleasure having you on my channel. I appreciate it greatly, but I don't want to keep you because I know that you have a very important chess.
We can go until my grandson calls. You know. This is his thing. On the weekends, he's allowed to be on his. He's allowed to FaceTime me on the weekends. So they're up in New Jersey, and so this is our time together.
I gotcha. Yeah, I definitely don't want to cut into that. So I don't see anybody really throwing any questions in here so far. Let me see. Let me just go.
The Oxford supposedly said something great about sleeves.
Let's see. I know it's so weird. Whenever I get more than 10 people in here, I can never keep up with the chat now that I'm not in front of my computer like I used to be.
Oh gosh, yeah, Theoxorus, you know, we are of like minds. Here's my work today. Let me see what I do with it. I've lost it. Oh, there it is. I've got all my recipes and everything that I printed out today and some other things. And yeah, I probably go through a box of 100 sleeves a month or so, maybe every 2 months. I agree with you there.
All right. I think that's it. We're going to wrap it up, and I'm going to end the live here. If you want to stick around for a hot second, I'll talk with you backstage.
Sure.
And buddy, for stopping by. As always, stay safe, stay prepared, and see y'all next time.
Thanks, everybody. It looks like it's going to be an outstanding channel and one you need to share with other people.
Thank you.